Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We're excited to have you listen in on our conversation today. This is a channel created by women, empowering women to take intentional action in creating the life that they want, with your hosts, Carla Center, subconscious healer, and Shanda Soretti, certified coach. So, Carla, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Shanda?
I'm so good, thank you. I'm really excited about our topic today, which is really cool because before pressing record, we picked what that was, right? So actually, I'm not sure if we've shared this before. We may have in the intro, but can you just share a little tiny bit about the things that we actually choose to talk about and how we come around to doing that?
So with Shanda and I, we don't overthink. We know that that can be such, I don't know, almost dangerous thing because you get into your head. So we want to share with you what we're asking of you, to not be in your head, to be in your heart. So we pick things that we feel we can share with you and come from our heart. We do it last minute, because otherwise we'll get in our head and we both of us have so much knowledge. We could just boom, 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 throw facts at you. But that's not where the real change is. It's not all about the facts. It's really what comes from your heart when it flows.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. So thank you for sharing that. So, like Carla said, we aren't planning or preparing or scripting any of this. Sometimes what we're going to ask from you guys is to give us your recommendations. What are the things that you want to learn about? What are you curious to hear us talk about and share about? So we'll ask you guys for your opinions and we'll pull from that. And other times we just come to the call and Carla and I kind of connect before we start and we just pick something that's on our heart that day in that moment. So that is why I believe, and Carla, I believe you are on the same page as me with this, that this is such a special channel for that reason, because these are just genuine, authentic conversations that emerge from us very naturally and holistically, right?
Exactly. And it's not something where we just sat down, we script, we practice. It
Yeah.
just comes from our heart, and we don't always know exactly what's going to come out. And that's part of the beauty of it, because we're here to just support and guide you. And so absolutely share with us what would be helpful for us to share with you. Um and I love that we're not like we've got some big whiteboard with a long list of topics, and it's not coming organically and it's not flowing. It's just, you know, something checking off the list.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it makes it a lot more creative too in the process, right? So like Carla said, we do overthink. 100% we overthink, which is why, like, I believe most people overthink, but that's why we've chosen to go this route with it. So without further delay, let's introduce today's topic. So, in lieu of what this channel is all about, from head to heart and home, we've decided to talk about living life in our heads versus in our heart. What that means, what that looks like, what we've experienced, and anything under the sun that wants to come up about that topic. So, I will hand the floor over to you, Carla, if you want to take it and run with it.
Okay. So, like, I just want to, even if we just started with, like, if you are staying in your head in your relationships, if you're overthinking, first off, you're projecting all of your own stuff on the other person. So you decide what their thoughts, their words, and all of that mean. Instead of flowing in your relationships from your heart, which is really what you want, that true connectedness with the people you care about, the people in your life. If you're anticipating their moves, if you're anticipating your conversation, then there's no true flow in a relationship. And it's it's not really connected. You're just both there. And I'm sure Shanda could back me on, if you are in your head when you're having a conversation, there is so much you miss out on. You know, we
Mhm.
already have these filters that hold stuff out, but when we're in our head, we truly can't be opened to the things that others have to offer.
Oh, 100%. So I love what you just started off with there, like totally loaded up. So, the whole presence thing, right? When you're in a conversation with somebody. So there's lots of different ways to be in conversation with people. You can be in conversation with people where you're just listening and you're not contributing. You can be in conversation where you're only contributing and you're not listening. And then
Right.
you can be in conversation where it's a little bit of both, right? And I find that, like what you said, Carla, a lot of us are in connection with people or in conversation with people, but we are not present to the conversation. We're trying to think, well, what should I say next? And what would be the smart thing to say? And what would sound good? And what would impress this person? Right. So we're like going off our, rambling off our Rolodex and not tuning into the person. And we
Right.
miss a lot of information because connection and conversation isn't just about words being spoken,
Right.
right? There's our physiology. So, like our body, how our body's reacting and moving. Because somebody could be speaking specific words, but their body could be telling you a completely different message and they don't align. So, you get to be like, hey, hang on a minute. Something's off. You're saying this, but I'm seeing this. So what when you were talking about at the beginning about being in your head versus being in your heart, what I pictured was this, and I think this is really cool. And again, you guys, I've told you that I'm very visual, so I will always share the beautiful pictures that pop up into my mind. For those of you who appreciate it, you're welcome. So I pictured when we're in our head, we are projecting, we're overthinking, we're analyzing, we're judging, we're criticizing people and ourselves. So think of a literally a projector, like an overhead projector beaming out. So you're like pointing out. Okay. If we're in our heart, we're in our body, I see like an outlet, like a plug in where we're actually plugged into and we're connected to. So we both have, you can look at your head as like a projection, a projector, and you can look at your body as like an outlet in which we can plug into and unplug from. So it's really easy to tell where you're living life, right? And we all have a dominant way of being. So do you live predominantly out of your head? That's where overthinking, overanalyzing, stress, anxiety, depression, all of those things come from there. Or do you predominantly live through your heart, which is where gratitude and compassion and love and grace and all those beautiful, warm, fuzzy feelings come from?
Right, right. And to feel the change and the shift when you do that, because I was thinking, while I was visualizing your visualization, and I'm thinking two people projecting and their picture coming together, and
Yeah.
they are not going to match, and they're not going to be something very pretty for sure, because they're not aligned, right? Because when we're in our head, we're not connected and aligned with this other person at all, like you're saying. But when we're in our heart, there's that connection. So it's not overlapping of the stuff. It's a cohesive, like, just flow between the two people. Whereas when you're so in your head, it is, you're right. The anxiety is like wondering what's going to happen next. What are they going to say? How do I need to respond? I've seen many times when they're like, are you listening to react?
Mm.
Are you listening to truly hear the person? Right. And so when we're in our heads, we're in a reactive mode, right? We're looking to react. And super easy to have old wounds and stuff come up when you're in that reactive mode, because you're looking for those little things. And that's part of what gets us there, right, into our heads, is like stuff has happened to us, so we're like trying to analyze all the little things to keep ourselves safe, even if that's not what we're conscious of. We're looking to keep all of the things safe. Whereas when we're coming from our heart, there's such a connectedness where you can see, like you were saying, when something's off, right? We're not looking for something to be off, but we can feel it. We're learning to trust our body. We're learning to trust our gut again, and just totally feeling that flow between us, the connection of our energy, um, and just the beauty that comes from starting to have those connected conversations with somebody that's from the heart. It just, in my experience, has your relationships flowing and flourishing,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said about the pictures, right? Like our picture that we're projecting. And what's fascinating is, again, mine is different than yours, but each picture is valid because each picture is our own experience of whatever we've experienced. We could have experienced the exact same situation, you and I, but our pictures will be different based on our experiences in our past, which is so fascinating. And it also explains why there can be a lot of conflict in conversation and in relationships, because if you're coming from a place of, well, this is what happened and this is what I'm experiencing, and so is the other person, and they're not aligned and they're not going to be, of
Right,
course there's going to be conflict because you're not talking about the same things, right? It's like speaking two different languages.
right, right,
Right? And so another great way to be able to tell when you are living life like in your head would be that if you're feeling triggered a lot, that's where you're living most of your life, is in your head, not in your heart, right? Because in our head is, again, where conflict happens. It's where it's born, right? And then I believe that intuition, I always tell clients, intuition is not something you think. Intuition is something you feel. It is in your body. And the only way to access your intuition is to be in your heart. Okay. So, and this takes practice, right? This is actually something that a lot of us are taught backwards. We're taught to disconnect from our intuition and to source what is true for us and right for us outside of ourselves, which makes no sense, right? We are our best, we are our best resource for the things that we need. We are our best um, um, guru for what it is that our soul, our body, whether it's physical, mental, emotional health, needs. And when we can turn up that dial, our intuition, and just start to lean in and listen to what our body is telling us, it's fascinating. So there's something that I really enjoy teaching. And again, it comes down to this concept, and how beautiful that this is coming up right now, because I like to teach the 80-20 rule. So you guys may or may not have heard of that. Carla, you probably have, right? We've probably talked about this in the past at some point, but the 80-20 rule, and I'm not talking about the food thing. I know there's an 80-20 with food too, and I'm not talking about that one, but it's that 20% of the information that our body receives or tries to decipher is from our head to our heart or to our body, 20%. So obviously that means that 80% of the information comes from our body to our head. So this is how I like to kind of really hit this one home. If you are living in your head predominantly, you only have access to 20% of the information of your whole self, your whole being. When you're in your heart, you have access to 80% of the information that your body is communicating. So I think that's huge, which explains why, our bodies are the way they are, they feel the way they feel, they react the way they react, because when we're ignoring them, what is the alternative, right?
right, right, right. And if you think about that, you're cutting off so much of what is part of you. Think about cutting off 80% of what is part of you. And they have found that there are so many cells in your heart actually that these receptors, that there's more of them, and I'll have to look it up and share later in the comments, that in the heart, these receptors, that there are more of them in the heart than there are actually in the brain. And that, in fact, the electromagnetic field from our heart is so much that it's vast compared to that of our heads. And they've measured that, and you can increase it, and it brain heart coherence. But when you're cutting off most of your knowledge, because that's really what you are, think about it, you're cutting off most of the information that comes to you. You are so much more than you allow yourself when you're in your head. And then you're cutting off all of the different things that you have always been supposed to. This is you. This is who you are. And you're just staying in your head and allowing others to tell you who you are, right? And that's where some of that negative self-talk and all those things come in. People can say something and they won't even remember it, but you remember it 20 years later because it impacted you so much in your heart.
Mm.
Right. And so, like you're saying, I mean, this is where we value, this is in society, we value that 20% because we have taught ourselves generation after generation after generation to be disconnected, to just stay right there and just take in the information that our head takes in and just, but when you sit there and truly allow yourself to get in your heart, it's such a beautiful, peaceful place to be, not just in relationships, but just as you're taking in your own information. So I love that you brought that up, because how often do we sit there in that 20% and we're just feeling so overwhelmed and we don't know what to do, when really, when we get into our heart, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I knew that. I feel it. I feel this is the right thing for me, but I never would have saw it. And they've done studies where there can be 10 people in a meeting and only one sees things a certain way. And they're so upset and they're so angry, and everybody else, same information, same conversations. They're like, that's not even what was said. But because they were here and because of their experience, that's all they got. That 20% through all of their filters was totally different than everybody else.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you used one of my favorite words recently. There's patterns, right, everybody? So pay attention to the patterns. It could be words, it could be actions, whatever, it could be pictures or images. And the word that Carla used that like got me so excited when she first started talking was allow. Okay. I'm going to offer you all a beautiful question. What do you need to allow yourself to feel in order to move forward? Okay. Notice how I didn't say, what do you need yourself to think? What do you need to allow yourself to think? It's what do you need to allow yourself to feel in order to move forward in the area that you're stuck, that you're feeling resistance to, that you feel like there's no way out, you feel hopeless, okay? Because you're not accessing the 80% of the information your body wants to communicate, okay? The other thing is that think of how we ask questions to each other. Okay. Like we check in, like Carla and I check in almost every single day with each other. We chat every day. And even I noticed, like, if I just reflect back to what I asked her when we first connected this morning, how are you doing? Right. We're so focused on how are you doing. So again, if you guys listened to our conversation last week, we were talking about doing versus being, right? This and what I'm getting at here is instead of using the phrase or the sentence, how are you doing? Let's start asking people, how are you feeling today? Right? What a beautiful way to even just start to practice, because this is always just practicing. That's all this is. It's just a bunch of practice, which is beautiful. Right. Means you can make mistakes and you can fail and you can whatever. It can be messy and it's fine. You're learning, always learning. So let's start asking people, how are you feeling today? Right? And I bet you the conversation will be very different than how are you doing? Okay. That's something I wanted to offer. And the last thing that I wanted to offer that came up based on what Carla shared there so beautifully was that when something isn't working in your life, right? When you hit a wall, when you feel resistance, whatever your experience is, it's a sign, once again, that you're up here and that you get to shift into your heart, right? So this is just coming up for me now, Carla. So I really want to share it, and I want to invite you to share as well. So there might be some people who are listening to this conversation and they're like, what the heck are these two talking about? Getting into your heart, getting into your body. I don't know how to do that. Help me. What do I do? What is one or two ways that somebody could practice getting out of their head and into their heart? What would you tell them?
So there are two ways that I do it every day. And one is I meditate, right? Meditate. And we talk about it. In fact, my kid and my boyfriend have said when they catch me in my head, are you going to go meditate? And the second, to be very honest, because we all can do it, is I have a thing that's called brain heart coherence, which has to do with going into your heart, focusing in on your heart, and gratitude. It's focusing on your heart and gratitude together, because it gets you there. It gets you in that space and set up here. And those are the two things that I do.
I love it. Thank you. And I'm going to share mine too, because, and you guys, everybody listening, there are a plethora of ways to do this. We just want to offer a few. Feel free to share your own, your favorites, what you've tried, what didn't work, all that stuff. Share that with us in the comments so we can see what you guys are up to, and maybe we can give you some more tips. So the three things that I do daily, and these really help me, and I'm telling you, they have been a game changer since I've implemented all three of them, one at a time. I will say that it was one at a time, and they built on each other. But the first one is gratitude. So every single morning, I do my gratitude journaling. Okay. The second thing is grounding. Okay. So I have essential oils, I have some crystals, I have some oracle cards. I don't necessarily use those all at the same time every day, but I definitely ground in, right? And the third piece is movement, moving my body in some intentional way. So for example, an unintentional way would be, oh, I have to go to work and my job is demanding on my body. Yes, you're moving your body, but that's not intentional. It's unintentional. So being intentional about creating movement in your day. So for me, it's usually yoga and walking, or sometimes if I know something is coming up and I'm like, okay, we're going to go on a hike as a family, something like that, and it's a little bit different, then that is my intentional movement for the day. Okay. So those are just some examples, but I feel like, I mean, this is a platform to support you and to help you move forward and to give you some tips and some pointers from our experience, right? So those are the three techniques that I use to get out of my head and into my heart. And another thing that I want to share about gratitude, it is Tony Robbins. I believe it's Tony Robbins. I don't know if I've shared this yet, but he says something along the lines of, when we are focused on ourselves, it is really easy to feel upset and to have problems and to be really heavy. When we're focused outside of ourselves on other people, like as the collective, it's impossible to be unhappy, right? So he says something along the lines. I definitely skewed his message, so I apologize for that. If I can find it, I'll put it down below in the comments. But what I'm getting at here is that it's really all about just being intentional about your time and allowing your body, your intuition, your soul to guide you to what it is that you really truly need for your path.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. And that's really what getting into your heart is about. Because like the gratitude that you do and what I do, even though they're different, it's really all about feeling that gratitude, really connecting in and being grateful. It's about the feeling you get with the gratitude. It's not about checking off the list that I wrote that I'm grateful for my house or I'm grateful for my family. It's about truly feeling that feeling and being truly connected in yourself with, wow, these are the things that are going on in my life, because it's easy to be in your head with those other things. And what you were saying is beautiful, because there's so much out there, but when we see the things we're grateful for and we get that connection, the picture that we see is so much different than it is when we're just in our head and we know all the different things that we don't like. We're telling ourselves all the things we're doing wrong and forget just how blessed we are. Like when you're out on your walks and you're just taking in the beauty of nature. And I love that too, by the way. I love going for walks, and just doing that connection with the beauty around us and seeing the little things. I mean, you even then see the little kind things people do for each other, whereas it's really easy to see the things we don't like, right, that are out there. So I love when you're talking about that. It's to see the beauty in the collective, to have the gratitude, because we get so focused on the negative and being in our head that we don't see that anymore.
Yeah. There's a saying that's popping up into my mind right now. And I remember hearing this, oh God, it's got to be 5 years ago now, but it's around the attitude of gratitude, right? And just a couple of days ago, I extended on this and I was like, oh, that sounds really good. I'm going to take full credit for this one. It was something along the lines of, it's on my social media, so I could go find it or you guys can go find it. But the attitude of gratitude is where abundance is born, right? Because we don't have to wait to be rich to have gratitude, or to have the perfect family, or the partner that we're waiting for, or the dream job. We don't have to wait for those things to be grateful. Being grateful is right here, right now, exactly as life is, as is. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, it's like, I really truthfully mean this. My gratitude fills me up every single morning. And I'm like, I'm not a grumpy person typically anyway, but like everybody, we can have our mood swings and whatever. But since doing this, and it's been months, I could go back, but it's been months. I filled so many books now. And I'm like, what a gift I have given to myself. And I continue to give it to myself every day. Right. Sometimes I think there's been 3 times in like the 6 months I've been doing this. I forget, which doesn't happen very often, whether like it usually happens if I'm not home. So I'm not in my normal environment. I bring my book with me everywhere, but I forget it in my suitcase or whatever. So if I do forget to do it in the morning, I still do it as soon as I remember it. If it's at lunchtime, if it's at supper time, sometimes it's the next day. But like I said, it's only happened 3 times. If it's the next day, I give my gratitude for the last 2 days instead, right? So there's no right or wrong reason to do it. There's no, or sorry, not reason, way of doing this. And so that was the piece about like being present, kind of coming back to what we were talking about at the beginning, and really presencing how you can be grateful right now just for being alive. I could be grateful for having a roof over my head. I can be grateful for having food in my fridge. Like it doesn't have to be these huge things, right? And I love, Carla, that you shared the feeling aspect. So the key, everybody listening, the key to truly creating what you want and accessing what you want and experiencing what you want is tapping into the feelings that those things allow you to feel, which is another reason why if we're up here, we're not feeling, we're not creating, we're not manifesting, right? Yeah. So I wanted to offer those. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And when you're talking about the big things, then you're making them the solution to your problems. It's not really something that you'll be grateful for. It is a means to an end for things that you no longer want. Instead
Yeah.
of seeing, like you're saying, just like all of the different things. The first time I did gratitude was I had a friend, she's like, I want you to send me 3 things you're grateful for a week and tell me how this shifts. Right.
Right.
And so if you can just try it,
Yeah.
just try it. You don't even have to send it to somebody. That wasn't for me. She was trying to make me accountable because it's very easy. And I'm sure this is why you do it in the morning. It's very easy to allow yourself to do the things to be doing and to
Mhm.
not allow yourself to be. And when you're having the different things that are really important in your life, as far as bringing you to that space you want to be in, it's easy to put them off, right? That's why you're still doing 2 in a day if you ever forget, because it's something that really makes an impact on your life.
That matters. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a priority for me. It's like I've created non-negotiables in my life, and I used to be somebody who, oh my goodness gracious, had like no boundaries. I thought I did, and I look back and I'm like, oh wow, that's why things looked how they looked, because I didn't have boundaries, right? And it's what I want to share here is, so again, some of you might be like, oh, meditation, or oh, gratitude, or oh, whatever, right? I'm going to offer you this. I can't tell you how many clients or people I've even just spoken with and offered information to underestimate the value of these very small or seemingly insignificant practices. Okay. I used to be there. Okay. I used to be one. And then I started doing them. Right. And I was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. So here's the difference. Trying something once, you might feel something. It's in the practice, which what does practice mean? Repetition, doing it more than once, doing it over and over again, repetition, commitment, right? That's where the true results come from. So, any of you who are up in your head right now about trying some of these modalities or tools, I would just encourage you to let go of the reins for a minute and trust this process. Try it, because every single one of those people who have always underestimated or felt like, oh, this isn't going to work for me, came back to share how it impacted their life, right? And that is a gift that only you can truly allow yourself to experience. Carla and I can give you all the information and all the tools, but we can't do it for you. We can't come over and puppeteer you into doing the things, right? You get to create that in your own life. And that's where the power is. Power is in you stepping into and being the person you want to become by doing some of the things and thinking some of the things and feeling all of the things.
Right. Right. And by not making yourself wrong, say you did gratitude for a few days and then you didn't, like Shanda doesn't make herself wrong if she doesn't
Oh,
remember,
no.
or for me, meditation was not easy at first.
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest with you. Anything that meant you had to shut off your thoughts was not easy for me, because I was very much the analytical person, very much in my head. And so I had to find meditations where they were so kind and nurturing. It's okay. Just bring your thoughts back. And I needed those because I would make myself wrong. So that's one of the things too. This is not about being perfect at all with the different things. If you things come up, or I mean, kids, I'm sure Shanda's had, mornings where there was not a way to do it because, her child needed her right at that moment when she had expected to do her gratitude. I've had that, but to just give yourself grace as you're trying things, give yourself grace and be open to the fact that it might be clunky and messy when you first start because
Yeah.
you're learning. Um, and this is one thing that I say to clients all the time. You did not know how to do everything the way that you wanted to do them at the start. We never do. So when you're trying something new, it might be messy. It might be frustrating, at first where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it right. But give yourself grace, because what comes out on the other side is this beauty and flow that you didn't know was possible.
Absolutely. And to back up what you just shared, Carla, there are so many ways usually to do these things. There are many different ways to meditate, like so many different ways. And I was the same. I struggled. I was like, I'm not doing it right. This isn't working. La 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 la, right? And then I just stuck with it, and eventually I found my own unique process that works for me. So encouraging you who are listening, find your own unique process, make it your own, right? Create something that works for you. Who cares if it doesn't look like somebody else's? That's fine. It's even
Yes.
better. It's yours, right? And we're all so different and multifaceted that we're not going to have the same routines, techniques, and tools to the down to every little detail that's the same. So make this your thing, get intimate with it, and just have fun, right? And while you're going through the process, again, not making yourself wrong, like Carla said, just telling yourself, hey, it's okay. Through this whole thing, through your whole journey, whenever your brain is trying to make something a problem, something an issue, just be like, it's okay. There's no issue here. Nothing's gone wrong. It's everything's fine.
Right.
Right? Back yourself up. Give yourself some credit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Because
Yeah.
you're this beautiful, unique being. And so if you did it somebody else's way, then it's not going to feel the same as you doing it your way.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes down to anything, creating daily practices, building a business, creating relationships and friendships, right? Think of this. You guys are going to probably laugh. What if our parents were the ones who told us how to have our relationship with our partner? What if they were the ones who dictated step by step how we have a relationship with a romantic partner, right? Like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Not at all.
So make it your own, okay? Just and don't let anybody talk you out of your own process unless it's damaging or detrimental or something like that, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So before we complete here, Carla, do you have anything, what's something, one more thing that you want to offer to the listeners today to take away?
When we were talking about not making yourself wrong, I also want to make sure you don't make yourself wrong if you catch yourself in your head.
Mm.
If you catch yourself in your head, you're like, don't, it's about awareness.
Yeah.
So realize that it's about awareness. It's about learning new things like we've been talking about, and just be like, okay, I was in my head and now I'm going to go and I'm going to drop down into my heart, and whatever way you find works for you, and not make yourself wrong about it, because it's about awareness.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. And I'm going to add on to that if you're okay with that.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying awareness is that first step. Until we're aware, we can't change. We don't know what to change. We don't know what to do. So awareness is that first step, which brings you to a point of having an opportunity to create the change that you want. So welcome the awareness. Don't judge it. Don't make it wrong. Don't make it bad. Don't make it mean anything. Just welcome it and be grateful that you have found or come to the awareness that you have come to. Beautiful. What a beautiful message to leave with today. So, Carla, do you feel complete on this conversation today?
I do, Shanda.
Awesome. Me too. So, everybody listening, without further ado, please let us know how you're enjoying these conversations. Comment below. Give us some ideas of some things that you want to learn about. We would love to engage with you. So, feel free to share any of your thoughts and feelings and feedback below with us. And I just want to thank you for tuning into our channel, From Head to Heart and Home with Carla and Shanda. And if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure that you click the subscribe button below so that you get all of our notifications and our episodes. Okay. So be sure to join us next week for another authentic, connected conversation. And we will see you there. Bye for now.